You know, about 10 years ago, I read this article about don't waste the youth of your senior years. And so I've kind of been thinking about that lately, about that article I read. I was in my 60s and kind of understood what they were saying about you have this time period in your life to where it's you're still youthful but you're considered a senior. I don't really know where that happens. Maybe 65, we're considered a senior. And then you get older and you often you struggle with health issues and mobility issues and some of those other things. And I realized that here lately, I feel like I'm wasting the youth of my senior years. I'm still fairly mobile. I have decent health, and I retired. It's been almost 3 years ago, and I think some of it is retirement isn't what I expected. It hasn't turned out like what I thought. I had expectations of what retirement looked like, and my retirement's not anything like that. I am in the camp of, I'd say, the unretired. I knew I wanted to work and do some things when I was retired, and that online stuff, and I could do that and work from home and set my own hours, and that's not how it turned out. I know that about 5 weeks ago we had that bad weather, and I got real anxious about it. I got worked up, I call it, and it's almost like I've dipped back into an addiction. And I did my live this week about how to deal with anxiety, and I worked on that and was writing about that because of what I'm dealing with. I've dealt with anxiety most of my life. I have more of an anxious type personality, and I've learned the things that help to keep that kind of in check. But once I dipped into it, it has been hard just to get back into that, mindfulness, and I'm doing all the things. But I think as we age, those things get harder. And one of the things about aging is we get to where we just don't have the same interest of getting out and doing stuff. I find myself, I call it the I don't want to's. Somebody will invite us out and I'm like, that sounds great. And then it's like, I get off the phone and I'm like, I don't want to. Get dressed and go somewhere, and I don't want to. I don't want to cook. I've cooked for 50-something years. I don't want to cook. I'm tired of it. So dealing with this anxiety, the effects on my body is I'm tired. I am really tired. And it is harder to get motivated or have the energy, especially if you have the mindset of the I don't want to's. And it's not like isolation, and it's not necessarily ruminating, or it feels somewhat like depression. I don't know if it's this time of the year, but when we're older, some of the things I've realized is I get overstimulated real easy. Just all that, whatever. And it's like I can remember being told as a child, tone it down a little bit, you're going to get on Granny's nerves. Yeah, I understand that today. Get on Granny's nerves. But I don't want to. And so I did a video. It's my most watched video, is Don't Let the Old Woman In. And I feel like that's what I'm doing. And then I'm wasting the youth of my senior years because I don't want to. In retirement, I think it's hyped up to be something maybe more than it is. I don't know. I have and know people that have that type of retirement, but not me. I had what I would call a retirement fund. It wasn't very big, but I had managed to, in my corporate life, build up, that. And I had some commercial property, which I always thought would be my retirement. And the neighborhood my commercial property was in deteriorated, and it kind of got to be where I couldn't keep it up like I used to. It wasn't going to bring in as the money to sustain it, so I sold it, and added that to my retirement fund, and that was a good thing for me. But things happen in life, and my husband went through some health problems and had to change jobs because it was so much stress on him. It was causing him health problems. And so he changed jobs and took a big cut in pay. And, with lifestyle inflation, and then this, the way the economy has bombed out the last couple of years, I didn't, anticipate using as much of that money to survive. And so 2 years ago, I went back to work outside of the home for 2 days a week. And I struggle with that. And, I'm having to look at maybe adding another day to working. I work in a counseling office, and I don't want to. I've really been struggling with that. So last week I had this meltdown. And I don't know what necessarily you would constitute a meltdown, but I was angry. I have not been that angry in a long time. And I have been doing some journaling about that. And, I kind of got to the bottom of that anger, and there's some grief and hurt over the fact that I'm having to work. There's a difference between wanting to work and you have to work. And just mad about the way things are, the economy, the shift in just so many things, the effect of AI on online courses and digital stuff, because I did really well the first year I did that after I retired, and this last year it's bottomed out, and so I had to go outside of the home to work. Well, I'd already done that, but I thought it would be temporary, and it doesn't look like it is. And at my age, I am not dealing very well with all of this, which I think is another part of being a senior. But I don't want to waste these good years. I worked in geriatrics for a year in my practicum, and I knew what old age looked like. And to me, that's old age. But there's this season in between, like 65 and that, if your health is decent, and I feel like I'm wasting that by the I don't want to's. And I know all of the things to do to stay motivated, to change my mindset, I'm having to work really hard at that. I've been journaling every day, putting my fears on paper, and then praying about them and giving them to God. Sign it. I tell God, I'm ready for you to have all of this. I sign it and I go shred it, which has helped. I've started doing that since I had my tiny meltdown. That's what I call it. My bonus granddaughter was about 5 years old, and man, she was throwing a fit. The only time I ever spanked her. And the next day she told me, I'm sorry, Granny, I had a tiny meltdown. They're so cute at that age. She's 20 now. But that's what happened to me. I had a tiny meltdown. Probably somebody should have spanked me. But the aging process, you know, you have more aches and pains. Things are quieter, not as busy. So it's easy to get into ruminating or worrying or some of those things. And those are the things that I talk about on here, ways to combat that. And it gets harder. It's gotten harder. I've been in self-improvement and recovery from codependency and all of this sort of stuff and worked on myself, you know, for 30 years. And it gets harder instead of easier because of the aging process. Is that sad? Is that, I don't know. But I don't want to waste these years when I'm still able to get around and to, you know, I get up in the morning, I have aches and pains, but I get to moving around and they go away. I'm grateful, though, for the habits that I have instilled in place through self-improvement because they're automatic. And those are the things that take care of, you know, my body, like eating right and exercise and journaling and meditation. And, you know, I have a few meds and some supplements I take and to make sure every day that I do that. Because I know I'll come out of this. It's kind of a dip. You get older, those dips get closer together. But, you know, I don't want to take on the old woman mindset. I don't want to let the old woman in. You know, and it's a constant battle. Constant battle. The frustration of dealing with technology and bombarded with information, just information coming at me all the time. And it's like, I just want to shut everything off and stay in my pajamas. And I think that's a natural part of aging. And so the battle's on. The battle is on. I don't want to sit in self-pity. It's kind of like it is self-pity about having to maybe work another day to deal with, you know, just I don't want to. To stay motivated. Motivation is garbage, like Mel Robbins says. How do you get motivated? Well, you just do the thing you don't want to do, and the I don't want to goes away. I mean, I enjoy the work that I do. I enjoy face-to-face counseling. I enjoy it when I get there, and it's fulfilling and rewarding. And, you know, it helps, you know, offset my Social Security. So, fight the fear. That's kind of where I'm at. That's what causes the anxiety for me. And if you're interested, you can watch the video I made on Don't Let the Old Woman In. I certainly heard a lot working in a salon from my older clients about what to expect about getting older, you know. But it's a whole lot different hearing about something and experience it, going through the experience yourself, you know. It's like, be careful what you judge. You might get to experience someday, and that's where I'm at. You know, I'm 72. I don't know. It's hard to believe that I am that age. And I can remember turning 60 and you know, getting closer and closer to 65 and thinking, man, I'm old. At 72, I think 60 sounds pretty young. So it's all relative. The law of relativity. what I compare it to. I'm struggling, and I deal with the fact that people think I got it all put together because I'm a therapist. And let me tell you, that doesn't constitute got it put together. And a lot of my friends, and they're younger than me, and they think of me as their age, and I am not. I'm really feeling my age right now. And I know that I don't have a clue, because someone that's 82 would tell me, man, you're still young. And maybe 94. I saw a documentary of a lady that was 94 years old, and she said, I lived my 70s dying, I got up every day and I worried about dying because I knew I had less of my life in front of me than what I had lived behind me. And she said, I regret that. So today, I'm going to enjoy the youth of my senior years, and I'm certainly not going to live like I'm dying. We never know that. We don't know our time. And I'm going to try to enjoy my life right now, right here, today. If I can stay in the present moment, I'm pretty good, pretty good. And even though I'm struggling with this, and even though I don't want to, I'm still going to be me on purpose. And I hope you are too. Be you on purpose.